All right, so at a very busy morning line, direct signals and modification lines of clock correlates and sending to travels. Team's going to get in central lines and communication lines and confusion because they're so used to structure and division lines of line settings. Travels in and communicates to its surface and track coil centers. Getting that in direct signals is understanding how to see that information to its grounds. Projection and setting. Okay. Directions and all levels of platform. Okay. Line and line communications all levels of multi-layers. Multi-layers of 1, 3, and 6 location of 7 and 12. Directing lines of grounds and a 4-line communication. All right. So see multi-layers and ground centers, power line direct signals, power line communication lines, earth in this way, earth in this way, earth in this way, and earth in this way in track location. Okay. Now, it's going to get very confusing for the team because their projection is no longer going to be in a film strip of design. Okay, off signal, off correlations, off track calculations, green lines, adaptation lines of surface have position locations. Right over left, left over right, and tubing and screen lines adaptation. Okay, process calculation lines, direct and redirect. So that basically direct and redirect gets one line calculation setting and travels. Indirect modification to assist in all position lines of signal. Ground center lines 2, 6, 8 over 7 lines of direct signals at 3 tractions. Cross line signals, 1 center, 1 track location, 1 interject line screen adaptation. Process lines of 1 platform, 1 center, 1 routes and routers and location surface and travel. Okay. Now, to understand your clocking line screen is a direct lines of communication to its surface. Now that puts all point lines of graph. Now the team, after lines and settings, comes in its 72 computer frame. Okay. Set lines of 72 lines, coursing channels and direct signals of panels into hanger lines and set position in 1 setting. Process communication ground centers, line condition setting. Sets core lines of 7 and 2 track locations into compilation. Directing lines, signal lines, and modification 1 center, 1 travel, 1 position. Core centers, line direct signals, so they won't know if they're up or they're down in sequence. Because the thing is, you guys understand your earth core line setting is changing track location in your film strip. That is no longer a set position of travel. Directing in modification ground centers, sets core centers in position of its intelligence, information location is ground system. Boom, intelligence right there. Bang. All right. So getting out of the film strip and getting to line screen adaptation system, it's kind of like you're so comfortable of structure and design. So this is going to help you in your forward waving clocking systems of zeros. That's right, team, 4 zeros in travel. Clocking centers of 12, clocking centers of 24, clocking centers lines of 48, and 72 track locations, right? Directing lines of 144 platform. Okay, so we start that track location lines. 7 lines of 2 is over 6 over 1. 6 equals lines of 1 equals lines of 0. Okay, setting core track line provision locations and 2 track locations 144 platform sets communication lines of center and travel. Directing lines and lines of course interference in direct signals into cross location setting. Data formation lines of 12, position of 24, 48, and 72 position location of setting. Process core center lines of 48 measure, scales lines of 24 cycles, 48 measure, line screen adaptations, 12 line signals into outcast and direct signals and modification lines of space. Process calculations of 12 line centers, outline communication lines of space, and track location. Directing lines of symbolism, 24 clocking line settings, set position 48 clocking system, 72 track location lines below cycle, line conditions in 140 center, platforms and setting, the line communication setting and program. Directing signals, modification lines, track location lines, taking 12 line and measure, 24 lines of communication, ground center constellations, 48 lines of setting of frames, 72 computer frame direct signals into 144 platform and magnetic highway screen adaptations of higher surface and traction. Directing lines of course interference is symbolism, line screens is adaptation lines of surface. Now retriangulate the position of its program. So it's true data standing. You get a 24 cycle. Let's start with that, right? 24 cycle, right? Equals lines 7 days a week. That's 7. It's already done, right? 7. It's already done. 7 lines, but it's no longer a film strip. Okay, you guys will be out of that. So now you're just dealing with everything location setting all around in sequence. Okay, core lines and setting, conscious lines of 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6, and line position of 7. right? 7 days, right? Data file 1, data file 2, data file 3, data file 4, data file 5, data file 6, and course center lines of 7. 7 files in set positional classification awareness. Comes from your tree, comes from your house, comes from your car, okay, comes from your table, comes from your bathroom, or it comes from your bed in track location, right? So I'm trying to get you guys to understand the files that you're coming into. 7 line signals of ground, 7 line signals of center, and 7 line rotation service, and 3 platforms of communication system. Setting course centers, line direct signals into 4 line cycle, line screen adaptation lines of surface and traction. Directing lines course interference and torque fields, ground center line condition setting open sequence. Power generation line screen, 3 lines of course centers into flux communication. Directing line communication setting of intelligence information lines of grounds. There's the intelligence. And a 7-day signal in one set position, 24-hour. All right. Now, so example with unison, when he scenes 144, this is unison here, set position, okay? Setting lines of track correlations. This is 144, right? He's seen that, right? Now, he's seen that in 3 lines of communication, right? Now, setting lines of communication lines, that's communication settings in 7 line signals, right? That's 7 days ahead of schedule. So he gets into position locations as his connections to his car and direct signals in modification, right? Gets in his car, okay? So he goes into the data file, right, through consciousness. It can be anything, gas station, anything is given to you, track locations in direct order. It has to be in direct order because it comes from information locations to your avatar or it comes in communication system to your oversoul. Goes to the files, setting lines of communications in track location line settings, setting lines of communication lines of highest interference. Data file 1, course centers of data file 2, course centers of data file 3, into 4, into 5, into 6, into 7. 7 days is already done in tractions in 1 day. So you have to truly understand how to set up the mapping sequence, line communications without the structure, okay? Units are going to be line signaling in positions of 4-day signal and position all lines. Spectrum course centers of travels, point lines of graphs, unification lines, line center location setting, networks, intelligence, travels, and self in set position of 4 cycles. Setting 4 lines of 3 and 3 lines of 4 and track lines in set position, 7 interactions, 12 in cycle, and 24 signal. All right. Directing core lines, high interference operatives. Okay. Setting course centers, line condition setting, and travels and point lines communication system. Operation, course center line condition setting. Placements on lines, existing lines into ratio. The atmosphere line screen adaptations into travels. Okay. Coming in line calculation intelligence lines of VAST in lines existing in travel communications. Directing and calculating modify line direct signals and line condition set or positional operation line server location 3/4, 4/3, and 3/3 interaction and division. Setting core lines out of structure, out of division location setting, and track location. Okay? All right. So truly understand that puts lines of 7 days of tractions, right? 7 days. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. 7 take away. Set lines of high interference. Let's say 7 days line high interference of 365, right? 7 take away 365. Process calculation lines of 5, 6/3, and 2 lines of traction. Directing signals and line connection setting 7 lines in a 14 line angle. 14 equals lines of 24 cycle and set position. Sets course center line condition setting and travels 24 graphs. 48 frames, 72 line communication equals lines of computer framing into plateaus, line direct signals of 144 equals 24, 24 equals lines, 144 tractions, and direct signals modification, right? Travel point lines of graphs is the center communication to settings, right? That puts all communication lines. So let's say you get position lines of setting. You got the 7 days, you got the 14 days, okay? Let's say you get lines of 14 days, and then let's say you want to bounce that out lines. You start with 24, and then you get into 48, and then you get 72, and then you get into 144. Platform communication lines of center operation, directing signals, right? 7 lines, 14, 24, 48, 72, and track locations. Directing lines, perimeter lines of 1, perimeter lines of 2, and correlation. Directing platforms cards sending highest interference, 7 lines of tractions. Set course centers at 14 line position. Set course centers at 24 line communications into 72 lines of charge mechanism line screen. Directing signals, direct and redirect. Process calculations, ground centers, operation surface, and track location. Okay, so it's going to get very confusing through their anomalies, where they come out of structure, where they come out of design. That prophecy and position to efficacy changes its performance location to set scales and set position lines of travels and set position. There's their scale, communication lines of balance, and track location. Okay? Directing lines of energetic domes, energetic screens, energetic rainbows, and line screen datation lines of surface and track locations. All right, so that's how it's going to be set up in your clocking system, right? Clocking center lines of zero, clocking center lines of panels, and lines of earth, space, and track location. My goodness, where are we coming into? Formation lines, ground line communications, information lines, configuration of face recognition of setting. Intelligence. Okay, that's how it's going to be set up. All right. Now, getting in position location to a system. With humanity, they still have to get into the north, they still got to get in their east, they still got to get in their west and their south. All right, balance ground line. Sun is the north, east, west, and south, and track locations. Directing lines over lines in northeast, location setting, east, west, southwest, and west, east, and line connected to southeast, west, north, and line position location and setting. Okay, so it's all lines of communication that comes in, information location its grounds, and all communication setting when it comes all over the constellation to a system, right? So again, 7 days, set location of 14 days. Okay, now you get 7 days lines of signal, setting track lines, that's a DX lines of 1. Now you understand what DX is. Dimension lines of setting, DX lines of 1 day. 1 day equals lines of 24 cycles in setting, right? 12 lines of measure, 12 calculation screen lines at 12 center lines, 12, 24, sets lines of 34, set lines of 34 track location equals lines of 2 times lines of 2, lines of 36 lines of setting of fields attractions. Directing lines of modification lines of direct signals, line condition setting. DX lines of 2, set position of DX lines of 3, DX lines of 4, and DX lines of 5, DX lines of 6, and DX lines equals line correlations 7 attractions, right? That's 7 days in a 24 cycle in center position operation. Okay? All right. Getting into the E-factor line screen adaptation and console course centers of travel puts all communication graph calculations. So 7-day signal, 14 lines of measure, okay? 4 equals lines set position location. That's a 2 week. It says 2 weeks, 2 week. Course center lines over lines triangulation box. Okay, so that's female lines of flux into male cycle and track location. Affecting signals. Now, in that position to its calculation screen lines adaptation, this is the ball line communication setting. This is the 12 clocking system center, right? Setting course centers of travels and point lines of graph correlation setting to beta, right? 12 line signals. Anything above, you're in 24. Anything above or higher levels, you're 48. Anything above line center, you're 72. Anything above course centers, 144 in track location if setting a travel. Okay? All right, so it's important you understand how to take the 7-day signals out in line screen adaptations. Process lines of correlation setting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, that will all be deleted. Cancel, 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 cancel. Right? Setting course centers of 7 lines of 0, point lines of 1. 1 line centers of 0, point lines of 2. Set position of 3, 0 point lines of 3. 4 line cycles, 0 point lines of 4. Point lines of 0 and track location. Direct calculus lines of 5, track location, up line signals, line connection lines 0, point lines of 5, line direct signal. Modification lines of 6, set core lines of 0, point lines of 6, 0, 0, and line position. Travel point lines of 7 and 7-day signal on a 24 cycle. That's how it's going to be set up for the team. Okay, it's through 0 calculation. Directing lines into modification lines of screen. Okay. Process communication grounds is knowing exactly how to formulate that through simulation ground centers. This is all signals and calculation screen lines adaptations. Okay, getting out of 7 days out of 24, getting out of 14 days in 24, getting out in line settings. Now, once you get into the month, it gets a lot more confusing now because you're waking up in position of tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes because what? It's always here. And they come into that position locations. Now you understand what that means in representation cycle. Going up the stairs and direct signals and modification to a cycle, right? Directing to modification lines. This is 2030. Okay, we're going to start in fractions. 2030, right? All right. Now, understanding this position, you're here, but you're already here in traction. So now you have to understand that everything's coming to you, right? And then you come into the center once you understand more levels of you and nothing that processes you, position, location, your systems. Center course system, platforms, lines of setting, DX lines of 1. Course center line condition setting, position lines of process, DX lines of 2. Process core lines and expansion, direct signals, line conditions of DX lines of 3. Set of course centers into flux over line, because you're going faster now, in force direction and time sequence, in line direct signals, in modification ground centers, open sequence, in a 24 cycles, in set position of seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? Very powerful stuff. So once we get into the month, 24 equals 30. Once we get into that, 30 line signals, set course centers, 24, okay, equals 6 months. They get in lines at 24, location lines, 24 equals 1 year in track location, right? Now, once you get into the years, 24 equals 2030, and set position locations sets at 144 tractions. Okay? So it's really interesting how you simulate the settings of set position, where you come into all that through collaboration. Forming ground centers, line conditioning, mapping sequence, all right? So 24 lines, 24 signals, 24 correlations, 24 locations, and 24 grounds. Okay? Really interesting informations, right? So we take 4 lines of signals, 4 cross location, direct lines of 4 line settings and panel, direct and course lines, 4 tractions, 2 line signals, 2 track locations, 4 line divisions, 2 cycle lines, heights interference, 2 rotation surface, in a line screen adaptation of surface and solar sail and track location. Very complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun, right? So I'm trying to get you guys to understand your platforms, how you come into 24, 48, 72, and 144, right? Setting course centers, anything 12, okay, is basically underscore, plus, plus, underscore, okay? Now, understand the 24 clocking system, 24 equals line conditions of your 4 weathers and traction. Tracking signal lines of 48 frames, set lines of box frame, setting course centers, line communication lines of computer framing. Oh my gosh, look at that. Whoa, that's where the team is right now. Boom. Process calculation lines, direct signals, next Friday, 44, setting direct signals in position of 144, equals lines of 14-day travels, in DX of 12. Okay? Your 12 rotation line cycle sets position line to travel. Points lines of graph and 144 measure, 140 grounds, 72 lines of communication computer framing, 48 frames, 24 clockings, and 12 line divisions location of a system, all through traction. All in chronological order. So you have to understand how powerful it is of what you guys are all coming into and position, location, and setting. Okay? So how's everybody doing so far? Yes, please identify your color number. Okay, it's very important. All right. Team can help you out, but you got to help yourself. And business locations, don't go into telepathy until you understand. Leave the questions and comments after. Okay, so truly understand how this all works now, guys. It's just truly understand how to see yourself out of the film strip now, getting into a new contract. Now, the new contract gets you out of creation and putting you guys into creating, getting out of structure, out of design. That puts you into higher line setting. The 7 equals lines of setting is 14 days is already done. Set course centers, 14 equals lines. It's always a 24 line setting. Okay, always a 24, right? So setting signals in all communication ground centers, triangulation lines, and direct signals modification. Okay, process lines of 7 over cross locations, 1 signal, one position, 4 track location lines of setting. Sets communication lines of 2 tractions, equal lines of course centers, influx over line and screen lines adaptation. Process lines of signal line, 1 center, 1 traction, 1 division, 1 location, 1 system, 1 center operation. Okay. So direct and redirect is going to be in 1 setting. Okay, one setting. Okay, 7 lines of triangulation. Okay, so you start with the 24, start with the 24, start with the 24, start with the 24. Okay, ground centers lines of 1, ground center lines of 0, ground center lines of magnetic highway in set position, all through 24. Now, once you understand the 24 line signals, in that communications, understand the platforms going through travel lines of placebo, cortex, a design line near sim cortex. Direct lines, modification lines of the sun and moon, comes line condition setting to its portal communications ground centers into a black hole and track location. Directing signal lines of symbolism line cross location lines, cross line signals, 3 lines of communication lines, 4 cycles, and 2 lines of division. Setting cross line communication setting, process lines of 1, process lines of 4, and track location lines of its Earth. Communication ground center, circle line rotation surface, Earth line rotation surface, and track location. Directing calculate modify, line setting high interference, 24 equals lines of 48, 48, 48, and 48. Set lines of 72 track location lines and computer framing and direct signals. That's where the team is right now. Okay, so I'm trying to show you guys how this all works and provisions of your clocking systems on 24 lines of setting, set position locations of panels, interlocation lines of flux, and core centers lines of grounds, and center communication setting and travel position. Okay, so they have to understand the computer framing now, right? Clocking system lines of setting, 0 lines of correlation, 0 lines of attractions, line division, there's 0 calculation of ground centers. Process lines of 24, set position lines of 12, right? Okay, if you get past lines of 6 over attractions and direct signals, you're into line communications of beta waves, equals lines of alpha and travel. Okay, got to be careful with the 12 line signal. If you're below 6 lines and you go into 3 and you go into 2 and then go into 1, that's a countdown. That puts you offline. Congratulations, you're off grading, off rollgame. 0 calculation, right? Then I'm going to bring it back in frame. So I'm just showing you the importance, how you guys basically have to understand yourself now without structure of design of a film strip. Doing lines of signals, lines of 0 gravity, 0 core centers, 0 panels, and 0 ground center in crop circle and set position. Sending track lines division locations in the box frames and travel. Process lines of 0, process lines of setting, process lines of 0, process lines of communication. 3 lines of patterns and line direct signal. Okay? All right. So it's understanding location of its clocking line communicates to its position. Let's go through 0 gravity, set lines of 12, set lines of 24 center, set core center lines of equals lines of 144, and line condition setting to 2030. That's that position. Okay? 2030 equals lines of 0 equals lines of 144. Platform communicates line to high direct signal lines equals lines 30 days already in track location. 30 days is already done, right? So I'm just showing you how to use an energetic graph screen or breaking these things down and set position to its operation service that relates position of its program, directing lines of signals, and graph communication lines are breaking down screen lines adaptations of code weaving. Code cross line screen adaptation lines of zeros, sets communication lines of ground lines of zeros, applied to the location of 4 lines cycle line communication lines of zeros, set a core center line connection involves XC1000 here, here, and here, and 4 platforms communication. Directing signals, triangulation, box line, and set position. Process core centers, 45 split lines of anomaly. Xbox line cross location setting to travel. Set lines of core center, line direct signals, and primer circuits in a 4-line provision. 0 correlation lines of grounds. Center core settings, line communication setting, lines of measure. Scale balance, directing lines, energetic line screen adaptation lines of surface and track location. Done my equation. Complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun, right? Now, what I'm giving you guys is basically understand more lines of travel is to let everything go, and the formation location puts you in all levels of where you are is all levels of nothing that shows you the mass of everything. So that's line communication setting. Once you understand your 12 signals of pi, set core center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's start with 6, right? And you're here looking down in set position, right? What you've done, right? Through your clocking system. 7 days is done, 14 days is done, 24 hours. Set position location, 3 months is done. 6 years is done. Now you can do anything in chronological order, and you get 10 decades in set position. All that's done through pi. Okay? Now it gets confusing now because you have to understand the measure and the scale and the balance now. to understand what you're doing from above, looking below. Looking below, looking above now. Center course setting, line direct signals, and modification lines of high track correlation system of travel. Puts everything, information, location, and balance in your settings and all communication to the system, right? Travel lines of point lines of graphs, interline rotations, center course system, set calculation lines, direct and redirect, and signals and modification. Process lines of 1, process lines of 3, flux capacitor. Overcross lines of pi and generation screen line adaptations. Process lines of 1, process lines of 2. Setting communication lines of 3 and 4, communication lines of intelligence. Okay? So getting in that line screen adaptation through pi gets you truly understand how to use it through measure and scale and balance. Okay? Getting lines of communications all over the top rotation of the green location system. Now you're not working with anything with film set design line. No projection or location setting of travel. No direct line syncs and location system of travel, right? This is what it is with the team now in sight lines. 72 lines of computer framing. Set correlating lines of 144 platform. And equals lines plus lines of volume, vast velocity, and vacuum. Okay? Center course settings, line connections, high centers of computer framing. Directing in modification ground centers. Mm-hmm. Flash drive, keyboards. Directing signals, modification, lacing lines of travel. Directing modification lines of box frames, center frame, correlation frames of traction. Lacing lines to direct signals and confirmation cycle. Directing signals into modification lines of 72 computer framing, box location center. Operate the surface and platform settings. 1-4 line tractions into 4-line signal. Directing in modification lines into high correlation lines of communication lines of power. Over lines of vast, velocity, volume, and set course setting, line direct signals in line correlation setting to DX12 and track location of solar sail. All right? So that's where the team is right now. So I'm just showing you how to come in your computer aligned screen adaptations out of structure of design now. You have to understand how basically after tomorrow line screen, 24 equals 7. Okay? Next Friday, 144 equals set position of 14 days, right? Set lines equals line 6 a.m. Set position of 7, 6 a.m. All right? So it's always going to be 6 a.m. Every 6 a.m. lines of signals line condition set to the sun, rotates the system lines of travels into the moon line center in core lines of yin and yang, a process of 8-line rotation. Directing lines of symbolism crosses line signals. Now getting in that communications ground centers, you start with the 7 days, you start with the 14 line, you start with the 30 days, you start with the 60 day, okay, and set positional keys into a cycle, right? Start with the 7 lines, equals lines of 14. Start with the 14 line, equals lines of 30 in track location. Directing lines of 60 days, puts lines of 120 hours in line direct signals into minutes screen line adaptations of processing, seconds over screen, minutes over hour, and hours over frame and track location. Directing lines of symbolism, line screen adaptation lines of service, line core centers of 60,000 line units in line rotation setting, 7 ground centers operation circuit location system, and 14 lines of measure and track location. Okay? That's very complicated what we're coming into high settings now, right? Try to understand how to use that in information location and computer framing attractions. Okay, guys? All right, so set lines of 7, okay? 7 equals lines of 14, equals lines of crease lines of 14 tractions, right? 14 equals lines of 7, equals lines of 14. Sets lines of 1 panel, 1 setting, 1 traction, 1 direct signals, right? Now, you're working with a full structural line division now, pixelation graphs, but you're no longer in a film strip now, so there's no structure in design. It's all memory core setting line connected setting, puts you in position locational levels. Here's 2030 and track location, right? 230 line signals, 1 data file comes in track locations, right? Setting lines of 7 days in track location, right? So you get it in 2030, or you'll get it in line screen adaptation of 2075. Now, once you more understand the nothing, puts all communications. So there's 2075, and you're seeing 3 days of data and process communication lines of grounds and set position lines of travel. Okay? So I'm just trying to show you exactly how this is all set up through structure now, right? Structure out of structure. No division, all division, right? Understanding of data files, process lines, of course, center line condition setting, 14 lines equals lines of 7, in line rotation surface, implication of this portal, sets course centers and travel in point lines of graph, in communication 4 settings in 1 second, 1 division. It's very complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm just trying to get you guys set up. And now you come into the spectrum of lights, lights of travel, lights of recognition, lights of performance, and your efficacies, location of your system, all through track correlation setting. Out of structure, out of design, out of mapping, out of schematics, right? Your schematics is high travels now, coming into the high signal location of its mind itself now. Open all signal, open all panel, puts all communication ground centers and travel in point lines of graph, right? Sets course center line connection setting to 2030 equals lines. Set course centers, 19 lines of value. Set course centers, lines of 5 cycles. Clocking system of 4 zeros in traction. Okay, so there's nothing you can't do through the mind, guys. So it's basically understanding these things. So you don't want to get confused through your body because your body knows exactly where it needs to go. Data formation lines of file 1 and position data formation lines of 2, data formation lines of 3, data formation lines of 4, data formation lines of 5, data formation lines of 6, and data formation lines of 7 in a 24-line cycle in set position equals lines of 7 days, 7 tractions, 7 divisions, 7 locations, 7 centers, 7 direct line settings, and set positional computer framing in a 24 cycle. Okay, this is chronological order given to you through codification of awareness, all through data file, right? Now the open files basically gets you to understand more. That's why they give you instructions, so you stay out of line settings, not on line rotations of confusion. You stay in your frame line communication setting. The only difference is you're no longer in structure in set position. Okay, you guys have your contracts in line direct signals after tomorrow line screen. So represent your system of tomorrow never comes because what? It's always here. But what is here to you is information location, how you see yourself already doing what you've already done. That puts the process of communication to your alignments in all levels of your setting. This gets you all set up in your clocking system and setting, right? So right now in line screen adaptations, it's 1040 on my watch, right? 1040, but I'm in position location in the year 3000. I'm now in 3000 years, right? And it's 1040. I see what time it is. I'm in control. So adding frame and communications know exactly the difference of where you are in your reality and know exactly where you are in your creation is know exactly where you are in creating. Getting line screen adaptation to its surface is really understanding the different locations when it comes in the past, the present, and future, where you can't change that because it's already set up for 2030, because it's already set up for 2050, because it's already set for 2075, and because it's already set for 3000 years in the future. Now, when you get in that position lines of track correlation system, your body understands the alignment and understands that when it gets up in the morning, you're not waking up to the morning, you're not waking up to the day, you're not waking up to the night. You're waking up to something that you already have done. That position lines as high centers that puts all communications in the system. So after today, the team is no longer going back in time with their body. Their body's now going fast forward. This is FYI, directing lines of graph communication setting and positional going fast forward interactions. Directing in modification lines with no more structure, with no more design, and no more schematics. All in set position in mind now. Send course centers and travels and point lines of graphs. Now, what you get out of the 7 days and what you get out of the months and what you get out of the years, everything gets a lot more easier in set position where you don't have to worry about anything because it's already done through equation. Okay? All right, so that's what true understanding know exactly inline screen line adaptation system. So everything that you see in direct line link is 7 days ahead. And you're going to see it again. Okay? So when you see it again, it's now in positions of what? 14 days. And when you see it again, it's now in what? 30 days. So it's just confirmation. Direct and redirect and the same symbol in set position. The faster it goes, the more you recognize the communication, everything around you in track locations. So a senior battery, a direct signal, right? Course centers, lines, electrical line condition setting and travel, electrical line bolts, and line communicates to its system. All through track lines, setting position of 1, position of 2, position of 3, and position of 4 of battery relines. Your battery relines as course centers. Everything you're in position of in creation comes in data files. All that communication system brings you line screen adaptations of 2030 and track load design. 4 cycles for units, back, there it is. 4 days is already set up. And a 24 cycle, and set position lines at equal lines of 4 days, and line direct signals in a 7-day system. Okay. And that's the units. Setting course center line condition setting with the team line, same set position your battery. Course center electrical line bolts and direct signals and modification center. Process calculation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, line 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what that puts, 7 days, is sonar of echo chambers. So lines of 1, 2, 3, 6 lines of 8. 4 lines of 8, set position of 8, set lines of 8, and track locations. Directing the course centers, line conditions and data files, process lines, set course settings in 7 days, line conditions, high center interference, and a 24 line rotations, in track location line direct signals into 2030 and set design. Okay? So, getting closer in position out of the month, you come into the year track. Now it can be 365. Okay, which equals lines of 1 setting. 1 equals 365 equals lines of 1. 2 tractions and direct signal. Okay, ground center lines of 1, ground center lines of 2. Okay, process ground centers, earth line rotation, surface and traction. Okay, so we take that line screen adaptations. 1 equals lines of 144. Set lines of 0, set lines of 0, set lines of 0, and 3 track location. Right? Direct lines is set with signal lines, modification of ground centers, in prophecy and position. Okay, line screen adaptation lines of surface, platform settings, and travel endpoint lines of ground communication of 5 cycles. Directing calculation lines of ground centers, rotate the surface, and track location lines of 3 cycles and 3 set position. Okay, directing of course lines of the earth line, rotate the surface and track correlation system and travel. Okay, setting line calculation lines, 365, 24 line cycle, right? 24 hours. 1 year. 24 hours, right? 2 lines of cycles, 4 line division location. See, I'm moving very fast in vortex location. But I'm just showing you exactly how it works in platitude line screen adaptation with surface and track locations, guys. Okay, look at that, it disappeared. I keep spinning it disappears. Now it's in position. Now, try to understand the 4 line signals into 5 line measure, in scale, communication lines of balance, in flux capacitor, screen adaptation lines of 8 settings. Process course center line condition set, a DNA track location system. Now the modification grounds. Remember the first oracle? She was talking about the DNA, which is basically the code signal changes on lines of 8 seconds per line. And that track locations, 0 point lines of seconds. 0 point lines of seconds, how fast it changes now. So DNA tractions in a 3 line cycle and rotation surface and track location. So line settings, highest interference, 0 on seconds, 0s on minutes, and 0s on hours and track location, right? Changes code signals lines to course interference of flux over line screen adaptation lines of 0, ground center lines of 0, and process line rotations and magnetic high line communication lines of 0 and traction. Directing lines of your DNA line rotation, surface, and track locations, right? All 3 platforms and track location, right? Setting course centers, line direct signals into modification screen lines. 0 are here, coming in everything in position location of your system. 4 settings for the units to come in track location. Coming to you in line direction. Okay? This is you come into expansion. Once you get out of 7, you come into 14. Once you get out of 14, it gets bigger. In set correlations, you come into 30. Once you get some bigger location setting, you come out of months, you come into year. Once you get out of year, you get into decades, and you get bigger over time and space line anomaly. Once it gets bigger, then you get a course center line condition setting all of a century. That's what goes on. It's a position of 7, 14, month, and year. And 1 cycle line direct signals into flux lines of 24 line cycles, setting course centers and 144 platform, directing signals and modification ground centers of 0 calculation. Okay? Very powerful stuff. All right? It's amazing how we come into that cycles now. Get your line direct signals into modification grounds and track location to a system, right? But I'm just showing you how powerful it is of what you come into through expansion, all right? But But you have to understand yourself through battery and what it's doing, how it's picking up files now in chronological order. Mapping sequence lines, the earth line rotation lines of setting in prophecy, line correlates and setting in brackets, course centers, and 3 lines of 4-track location. Signify lines X2001, 2, and 4 settings in the line position location to its system, all through plasma screen to direct signals and data formation. Prophecy lines of 1, prophecy lines of 2, and 4 settings and 8 line cycles and track location to its system, all through measure. X2000 comes in platitude 1, platitude 2, and line screen. Directing line signals crosses lines, 1 atom rotation, 1 track location, 1 molecule. Trial line rotation centers, line rotation surface, and track location. Okay? So it's amazing how it comes in mind's eye line screen adaptation system. See the mind's eye? You see it? Okay? Setting course centers lines in 1 setting, over cross location setting, all direct signals into all calculate and modify. 24 line settings of 7 days in traction. Seeing everything over in line rotation. Earth line grounds, center course system. Mapping sequence of pi, guys. Directing lines, earth line, tone line, screen lines of rhythm that correlates the communication lines of the earth and track location. Okay? Now, course centers, flex over line and patterns, cross line symbols into bracket course centers and travel point lines of 0. Communication ground centers opens all signals, open modification lines, and crops their correlation. Done by equation. Okay? So I'm just trying to get you guys understanding what's going on in signals now, where the team is coming to this now. Okay? Map and sequence and line screen adaptation. So what it is, why you have to understand the importance of the 7 days. Okay? 6 a.m. You get up in the morning. You're not getting up to the morning. You're not getting up to the afternoon. You're not getting up to the night because it's already done. What you're coming out of now is no structure, no division, no design, no schematics. All you're going to come into is a visionary cortex in set position that's already set up in your surfacing engine of Jupiter. Jupiter is going to give you the information panel, set lines to direct line to sight, in your correlation setting of your day in position of 24 cycle. Now that 24 cycle puts everything in that 7 days that's already in sequence. It's already in chronological order. So it's very important that you understand the direct link of what you're in position so it doesn't get you out of order. Okay? Knowing exactly getting into that position location puts you into 144. That puts you into all settings of 24 cycles equals lines. 14 days is already done. So what you're going to see first is the formation of its intelligence of remembering the system lines of its travel. Now, once you get out of that, you cancel, delete, erase. You set your fail-safe and track location setting back in 0, align rotation to its surface, puts position lines of tractions, all direct signals, back in calculations, right? So you don't get confused and it doesn't change your frames and track locations on your 7-day or your 14-day or your 30-day or your 6-month day or your year in set position, right? So the more you come out of tractions and the more you come into line signals of nothing that shows you the mass of everything, then you understand you're coming into all of 2030 and set design. 2030, guys. Which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Because you went through the 7-day, you went through the 14-day, you went through the 30-day, and you went to the year. And track location. 4 symbolism lines of 7 over lines of 0 lines of course centers, lines of visibility charts, and 4 track location. Directing lines of course center likeness and setting of 14 lines of measure. Setting core line and highs of 30 line day line cycle line position. And set course lines of 1 year and line direct signals in modification lines brings you in track location lines of 2, 0, 3, 0, and 4 settings. Set course centers, ground center lines of 1, set position lines of travel. Setting core lines of your Earth or where you are in 2030, a set position of design. Hooah! You're there. Okay? But it all comes in position to this through expansion. All through your clockets. All right? So I want you to understand that now. Now, with all signals, lines of center lines, the Earth line rotation surface in a Fibonacci line screen adaptation. Process lines of grounds, process lines of grounds, process lines of grounds. Right? 4 lines, outline signal. Okay? Setting tubing line screen adaptation lines of surface. Setting course line lines the Earth and position of space and track location. Okay? Setting ground centers, earth line rotation, surface, and track location. Right? Center lines, operation of U. All formations and every C line rotations of everything, all setting, all around in track locations. Seeing everything all around in line screen of seconds, minutes, and hours in frame. All through webbing system of light web and dark web and track location to a system all through travel. Hoo-ah! Very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. So now you just expand in your minds and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? Very powerful stuff. So getting to that position location is truly understanding your platforms of your DNA interactions, direct signals. Right? All lines, all direct location, your computer framing and track location. So I just want you to understand your clocking system, how it comes out, calculation, your battery. Right? Set position 1, 2, and 3, 4 days already set up, right? Sets lines of 24 lines, equals lines of course center interference. 144 platform, directing signal line position locations. So the 144 day lines is crystalline. Now that rotates the surface location system that keeps you an invisibility line rotation surface in spectrum. Force correction of time sequence, let's add line screen adaptations. Let's add lines of 25 line cycles, equal lines of 7. 7 course settings line of 14 lines of attractions and direct signals. 7 line signals, set correlation lines of 7 line rotation, and 7 platforms and traction, direct signals. Modification lines of 1 to position of 3 over setting. Roundabout, center course centers on a circle line and direct signals and half pipe. Travel point lines of graph. Direct core line centers, energetic dome line rotation, surface and tractions. Direct line energetic long of 14 lines over 7 over traction. Directing lines of symbolism, cross line signals, XT1000 coming at platform. Center core line settings of 2, 5 equals lines of 7 over track location. Directing symbolism lines of 14 line, core line settings of travel. Point lines of graph, point lines of division, center course setting, line rotation, surface, and track location. Okay? So what I'm just showing you basically, everything you come into, you've already manifested. And then you realize you're actually living in a cycle that you've already done. That's why Ziggy formation, line screen dot, she's already done these things, right? So what is she in position of? It's not a coincidence. She's in a 7-day signal into a 14-line gap. 7 years with general, 14 days, which is equals lines of 144 tractions. Equals lines of 0, equals lines of 0, equals lines of 0, and equals lines of 0, north, west, south, and east. Nothing is coincidence in set position. Nothing. All right, so understanding that and track lines, highest interference, the most important thing you have to understand is the plotted to division locations when it comes to high line setting. 24 cycles. Is that a coincidence that we're in 24/7? No. That's where my phone is right now, 24/7. And that's where you guys are going to start off. Gotcha. That's communication to my phone connecting to this digital pad, has a course and line condition setting of 0 gravity, 0 center, 0 panels, and rotation surface. Okay, 0 equal lines of 1, 0 equal lines of 2, 0 equal lines of 3, and 0 equal lines of 4 and track location. Okay, now it's in 27/7. 27/7. Oh my gosh. See, 20 lines of 7. There we go, 27. 20 lines of 7, guys. See, it's not a coincidence that my phone is basically coming back and forth and direct and redirect in one signal. Sets course centers, that's where we got into 24/7. And that's what you guys are coming into now. It's a formation lines of grounds, location your powers, the atmosphere in your highways, and having a direct line signal in set position. So again, when you get up in the morning, which is not the morning, you're not getting up to the afternoon, and you're certainly not getting up to night, which you've already done through process. Set all locations to its setting. So where's my phone at right now? 25/7. Okay. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand these things and how this all works in provision. Okay, this is what you guys got to get out of. Is get out of structure, get out of film strip of set design. Okay, yes, it's exciting. Very powerful step in track locations. All right, now directing modification lines. We're going to go through clocking grounds, line and metrical cubes, directing lines and division lines of door screen location setting into lower deck. All right, see you guys in 5.